EPL. So we are this Sunday. We'll complete this year's Premiership 2023. Unfortunately, most of it's done, but we'll get to the relegation in a minute. Tonight, Man U play Chelsea. They need a point. If they get a point, then they're in the Champions League. I think they'll probably want to win and get above Newcastle just for pride. Maybe third. I don't think there's much difference. Third and fourth go straight in, and Man U have a better coefficient, so they'll go into pot 2 anyway. So I don't know if, apart from maybe Ten Hag's pride, if it matters coming third or fourth. But all they need is a draw tonight against Chelsea, and then that's Liverpool done.
I think the idea is if you pick up a point or win tonight,
you can rest
the
everyone.
idea would be
for the FA
resting
Cup.
players. I mean, probably someone like a Rashford actually need some game time to sharpen up his skills.
Team.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Otherwise, I'm going to be taking out wee Betty in a very much.
It feels like it's going to be me that's coming last with this one, to be honest. Like, I got so
crossed.
excited when I saw De Bruyne and Haaland both starting last night, and I was like, "Oh, they're both starting, brilliant!" 6 points for the pair of them. So they could be vital points, but we'll see. But yeah, so Man City's won the league.
What's your take on City, mate? I mean, obviously, I'm sure you gutted. I think it's the most days for a team to spend at the top and not win the league.
93% of the season at top. Oh, listen, they'll learn from it. I think most people with a brain thought Man City would always catch them. It was only really in April I started to believe it, that we'd win. We were 8 points clear, and I was like, well, realistically it was 5 because they had a game in hand, but it was 8 points clear, and we were beating the big teams. The game changer was the 2-0 up against Liverpool and drawing that. They never really recovered because they then drew with West Ham, they then drew with Southampton, and then they had to go to City knowing that they kind of blown it.
Because you know what it was? It was the bottling comment where again, it's about winding up rival fans and the like, and funnily enough, you probably get a lot of Spurs fans saying that, which is something to behold. But for me, it was strange, mate, because to be 2-0 up, they played so well in the West Ham game and and the Liverpool game. Look, Liverpool could do that to you if they get that goal back. But yeah, jeez, I mean, the thing that annoyed me was after they came out of the Europa, as you would say, and as I would have said if I'm an Arsenal fan, great, we can concentrate on the league. Yeah. They went to City, and that for me was bottling it, because it was very much like, not so much basketball and the Celtics in terms of, it just felt lack of effort. There were no intensity, no one played.
Putting out a full strength team every Thursday night was silly. He obviously knew he was getting into the Champions League when they're sitting top of the league, right? So you don't need to win the Europa League, right? Winning the Europa League's brilliant if you run about third, fourth or fifth, sixth, because it's straight into the Champions League as a seed one pot. But if you're sitting top of the league, you know you're going to finish first or second at that point. Playing his first full strength team every Thursday night, making it more difficult on a Sunday, and ending up with key injuries to Saliba, which was ultimately the reason they never won the league. Because you look at the stats when he played and then when he didn't, it's like Liverpool losing Van Dijk, or, you know what I mean, Man United losing Ferdinand or something like that in the past. It's vital to the team's success that he's the key defender, and they played him because he's young, or he's fit enough, he can do this and that. It was a bit cavalier and a bit probably naive from Arteta, and it shows probably his lack of experience, that he's trying to win every competition like Pep, but we're nowhere near Pep's squad, and I think they should have put all their egg in the league basket much sooner. They might have got up, but ultimately, like you said, the performance against City, I don't even have a problem with that. I don't mind losing 8-0 to City at home and away. If they beat Liverpool and West Ham and Southampton, they still win the league. They could have lost that game and still won the league. But yeah, it's once the Liverpool game got away from them, I think that was the cracks. But again, I'd just quite happily say on record that I would have bit your hand off a second last year. I think it's a huge improvement. They've been great to watch. They're up there with City as a team to watch now. They don't have the same squad, so they can't bring on the same impact players.
On that, because I don't know if you know Simon Jordan, who used to own Palace.
Yeah, Crystal Palace.
Does a lot of the
talk
sort of talk sport. Yeah, he was saying off the back of Saka's new deal, which is obviously a big one for them to tie him down. It never looked like he was going to go anyway, but good to tie him down, given his. I guess they're expecting him to be a superstar, but I
think he already is a superstar. You can tell his stats this year, and he's only going to get better because he's young. It's good to tie him down, and also gives confidence to the other Arsenal players and anyone joining Arsenal. There's a foundation there that this isn't hopefully a blip, and they're not
on
going
that
to go.
He was saying that they would have to spend at least £200 million to stay in the top four. That's what Simon Jordan was saying. Now, I think immediately when you
So,
digest
Simon
that,
Jordan's never spent like 5 pence when he was at Crystal Palace, so that's rich coming from him. It's easy to say that, and it's nice to say it. It'd be nice to think they had 200 million to spend, but I mean, Man U need to spend 200 million to get above Arsenal. Chelsea's already spent 600 million and they're useless. City don't need to spend much, but they will because they always do. And Liverpool, you think they're in a rebuild mode, so they'll probably spend. It's about spending right. It's not about just spending money. Like, I was delighted when Arsenal never got that Casiedo for 70 million, and I hope they don't get him in the summer. He's just not worth it. He's a good player, but 70 million's too much for Arsenal to pay for a player like that when he's not going to be streets ahead of what they've got. I'd rather put 30 to it and get Declan Rice.
The talk is they're going to get both, because the whole idea is, obviously Partey was sensational to 3/4 of the season, and he seems to have just tailed off a bit. Xhaka's going to be gone, and so you're left with...
I think Xhaka going. Xhaka had a decent season. He's actually
it's perfect to get
player.
But
I think
to get a little bit of money from him,
get some cash and get him out the door, because he's still a liability. And again, it was him that wound up the Liverpool fans at 2-0, right? And got Trent Alexander all wound up, and they ended up...
I've never rated him. I must say, I think he's one of the worst signings Wenger's ever made. However, it is probably a testament to Arteta in the fact that he's actually made him into a really good contributor for the team. Yeah,
I think he's had a good season. But again, I think he's still a bit of a liability in a head case. So I'd be quite happy to get him out and get someone else a bit younger, a bit more in the mould of what Arteta's trying to build. Like I said, Declan Rice, from what I've seen in interviews and how he plays, I think he'd be such a good club man as well. He just seems like a good bloke, and he's a world-class player, so I think he would be my number one list. And I said that a couple of years ago. I thought, man,
good guy for a culture of a club, mate. He's top draw, and he's obviously, again, you probably play the English tax, as it were, the premium 20%, but his quality, he knows the Prem, so I guess versus bringing someone in from a different league,
and he's close to speed. Top 5 in all stats in the midfield. So he's got to be in the top 5 midfield players in the Prem.
From what I've read and the credible sources that are out there, which are few and far between, it seems like they're going to go 70 odd Casado, 100 and whatever for Declan Rice. So, I mean, that's 200 alone. You probably need at least 2 centre halves.
Yeah, well, you need at least one, because I would rather Gabriel was a backup rather than a starter.
Yeah, agreed.
And I'd like a backup right back for White, because Tomiyasu's not good enough.
Yeah, it's interesting. So, he was signed as a centre half, White, wasn't he?
He's just not big enough. He's good in a back 3, which I think they were originally going to play, but he got found out in a back 4 because he's just not physical enough. Doesn't win enough headers. He played in the back 3 with Dunk, who won everything in the air. Dan Burn as well, big monsters at Brighton, and he was just a bit of the fast ball player.
Good point.
Yeah, so he's probably better out on the right. At 50 million, you've got to keep him.
Talking about defenders, it looks like United are hopefully closing in on, I think it's Sanjay Kim from Napoli, who they reckon is the big replacement for Kiribali, and he's come in and absolutely destroyed it.
He's been a one-season wonder so far. He looks amazing, but is he a one-season wonder, I'm suggesting, or is he actually the real deal? So we'll see.
The beauty of it is you can take the risk because his buyout clause is like 30 to 40 million, which typically trying to get something. United would link with Kiribali every season. It was 90,
80 million,
100, 80s, and then he obviously goes to Chelsea and he looks way off the pace, right?
He does.
So where this guy is a lot younger, he's in his development, and he's proven that he can move to a new league and really turn it on. So the idea would be for him to sit behind the Varane and Martinez partnership, with the idea that Varane's he's obviously injury prone.
Yeah.
And so you can bring him in and integrate him into the team, and then there's really strong competition. So we need a solid option to bring into,
I think you're right. If you can get him for 30 or 40 million, I think it's worth the risk of him being a one-season wonder, because he's looked world-class this year, and you don't know if maybe it's that environment or whatever, but I think that's a good cost-effective signing. That's something that and I saw Andy Cole said the other day, he said Man U won't win the league until they start signing proper players and not overpaying on everyone.
I think we've seen that with Ten Hag to a degree in the Malacia signing, who's more of a squad player, but 13 million. They got Eriksen for free. They obviously Casemiro was a last stitch. We wanted to be young,
he's definitely been
lost
worth
the
the
first
money.
2 games. Oh, absolutely.
He's been worth the money.
If you get another 2 seasons out of him, and if he tails off from there, the 4th season, you're paying him out, and he can come in and contribute in certain games in the second half, then happy days. But he definitely seems to at least be one of the ones where we've had to pay a premium, but he's come in with the right mentality rather than I'm coming here for a payday. So, I mean, if you can offload the likes of a Martial who would be on 200 grand a week, you've got rid of Pogba who was on 250 a week. Yeah, you're saving a lot of money.
Aston Villa were rumoured to be looking for Martial. I was like, oh, that would be hilarious if he ends up.
I have good friends of the show, as they are both G Walk and Mason. I'm sure would be dead excited to get the.
Well, I mean, the thing is, you know yourself, on his day, he can be such a player, but I just don't think he wants
those 3 days he's had in 6 seasons with United are phenomenal.
I just don't think he wants to be a professional footballer.
No, I think he wants to be a professional sulk, so he's does a good job of it. But touching just finally before we move on, and obviously I've got my fingers crossed that United don't actually implode and actually get a point over these next couple of games. Newcastle also confirmed as top 4. What
Brilliant season for them. I would not have had them in my top 4. No one thought Almiron was going to have the season he had. No one thought Schär was going to have the season he had. Botman's been a brilliant signing. Looks like one of the real up-and-coming centre-backs.
Yep.
Trippier's been fantastic. I think most people thought he would be, but he's been fantastic. Callum Wilson, when he's fit...
signing.
Yeah, Isak's been great and integrating him well, but Callum Wilson scored like 18, 19 goals in the Prem.
I've always thought Callum
phenomenal.
Wilson's... I mean, it's just the injuries, right? That's probably been his biggest hindrance. He goes on a 6-7 goals, scores 6-7 over 10, 12 games, and then he goes injured for 3 months, and so it's hard to sort of
about
prove
fitness,
yourself.
you can see he's a really good player, and I think he'll stick around, even if they upgrade. I think that he'll still be a good player for them.
Yeah.
But I don't think anyone saw Joe Linton or Almiron having the seasons they had.
I was going to just talk to you.
They've been like 2 new players.
I've always liked Almiron. He reminds me of, you remember Perez, who went to Leicester.
Ayos Perez.
Just a nice little player who, again, whether it's coaching or being in a better side, I think could have shown their talents off. At least that was my view on Almiron. I always thought he was a little bit like Ayoze Perez, who had a lot more talent than what he was showing. But Joe Linton, the applaud that Howe or whoever's made that sort of decision to bring him into midfield, because he was signed again under the Ashley days. Steve Bruce said I think actually Benitez, he was linked earlier. Benitez said he's not worth 40 million. He's not a goal scorer. They signed him 40 million. Them spending 40 million under Ashley was like United spending 80 or 90, and he was just an absolute travesty. So to see a guy like that, I still don't quite know how it works, but it just does, mate.
It does, yeah. That's what I said. So Eddie Howe gets for me up there with Arteta, but I've still got to give Pep Manager of the Year, even though he's got the best.
We'll go through our awards probably next week.
Yeah. Eddie Howe, because of the players he has, like the signing, he's not bought £100 million player yet. I mean, Isak was dear, but Gimenez was dear the other season. But they all they've just been really good signings, and they look a handful. And because they've got money, if they invest it again, and they're in the Champions League now, they could go leaps and bounds again. You know what I mean? They could end up being a handful again next year. And then Man U, we'll assume Man U get 4th. That rounds off the Champions League. Liverpool's going to get 5th, I think. Brighton 6th.
And then confirmed, and that's another big one, mate. They were celebrating yesterday. I mean,
and again,
what a team!
I would love them to get 5th if they can. I don't know if they can catch Liverpool, but if they could, I would love them to get 5th because I think they deserve it. I think they've had a better season than Liverpool. They've been better to watch. They've beat Liverpool twice. It would have been good if they finished above them, but they've probably. I mean,
Everton at the Brighton,
when Brighton look back on this season, they're going to be annoyed at the stupid points they dropped to the bottom teams, to the Bournemouths and the Evertons and the Leeds, right? When they were beating City or drawing with City and beating Arsenal and beating Liverpool and beating United, they're going to be annoyed because they actually could have had an even better season. But I think most people, if you're from the Brighton area, you would be over the moon with 6th place.
Oh, mate. I mean, De Zerbi coming in with no pre-season. Fair enough. Potter was obviously getting the Chelsea job off a brilliant start and when he had done previous season. So let's not just say, De Zerbi's come in and cleaned up a mess. They were playing great. They'd obviously beat United at Old Trafford.
They were 7th or 8th. They were 6th, 7th or 8th when he got the job.
So he's obviously I guess the plaudit should be that he's maintained that and obviously potentially improves him by a couple of places over the course of the season where you'd expect them to fall away, right?
But they look better.
Oh,
they
man,
do. They just look hard to beat.
I mean, Matoma obviously coming out of the woodwork.
Yeah.
To who left them? Who was the big Trossard after what a start to the season? Yep. He was player of the season between him and Almiron. Were player of the season probably at least a third of the way through the season. They were both absolutely killing it. So to lose him, looks like they've always got another player. I mean, this is the big thing again with how well they run. when most teams sack a manager, a United to a Spurs to anyone else, it looks like they go, right, who's out there? And let's go to the drawing board. Where my mentality is, as a club, you're always searching for, if Ten Hag doesn't work out, who will we bringing in? And the idea should, I'd imagine, be in the same vein of football, because then hopefully the players are going to suit the style of play.
Yeah.
So Potter goes, De Zerbi in, boom, move forward. It's like, it's just, they make it look so simple.
This is why we did an argument last year when Solskjaer left and they brought in Ragnarok or whatever his name was. Yeah, and I said it's just a disaster because, one, you're not giving him any confidence by bringing him in for a 6-month contract, but two, he's famous for the high press, and Solskjaer played the complete opposite. The players he's got, Man U at the moment, are brilliant on the counter-attack, and it's why they're scoring so many points away from home, but they're not going to do that high press. He's going to have to bring in like loads of players, and you're only bringing them in for 6 months, so you're not going to get the budget, blah, 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 blah. It was a bit of a disaster, and I think most Man U fans now would see that as that was a waste of 6 months. They should have probably either kept Solskjaer in for the full season or...
No, the idea would have been probably, generally you don't
keep
the assistant manager.
Yeah.
You can't get Ten Hag because he said he wasn't going to come, but keeping Carrick in there. Usually, it is a little bit like that Stellini versus Conte scenario. Usually, the assistant goes, but he won in Villarreal away from home in the Champions League, which is a tough... certain was the Champions League, and then he won the next game. Again, this is obviously after a bad spell, Solskjaer getting the sack.
Yeah.
So in a way, we should have probably just kept on with him just to see out the season, because the reality is you're only going to get the sort of manager you want potentially, in the summer. But Brighton are top tier, well run club, and credit to them. I think everyone's got a bit of a soft spot for them.
Yep. Right, well, let's move down to the bottom of the table. So Southampton are going. They're going.
Yeah.
Leeds are looking like they need a miracle. So Leeds need to beat Spurs at home. They also need Everton to lose and Leicester to draw, right? So Leeds need 3 results to go their way. Their win and both Everton and Leicester not to win. And Everton
I think Leicester's got the best. I think Leicester's got the best goal difference.
Leeds have the worst goal difference. So Leeds actually need. Everton can't even draw for Leeds to stay up. Everton need to lose at home to Bournemouth, which is unlikely, but it could happen.
I can see them all picking up points.
I actually think all 3 will win. I think they've all got to win, and I think they all will win. But I think that still sends Leeds and Leicester down. I think Everton stay up with that win.
Goodison's going to be rocking, mate, to get them.
Everton do this every year. I think it's 50 or 60 years since they get relegated.
Yeah.
I honestly said, I'm 40. I was 40 this week. I think about 39 of those years Everton have been right down the bottom of the last day of the season, and they somehow stay up. So I just know that the players, the club, they'll be set up to win that game at Bournemouth. Bournemouth are on the beach. They're more than safe. They're more than happy with the season. It's an away game. It'll be a tough crowd for them. I think Everton win that 2 or 3-0. I think Leeds will beat Spurs because Spurs just look a real disgrace, and I think the Leeds fans will be up for it, but that could be a draw. And I think Leicester will beat West Ham because West Ham will put out the kids
because they've got the Conference League final.
They've got the Conference League final. They're safe now. There's just nothing to risk playing your best players. So unless there's people that need game time, I think Rice will be wrapped up. Antonio will be wrapped up. Those kind of players that are key. I don't know if Ings can play in the conference, so you can imagine he will start, which again he'll probably start.
Which is again is a big hit to Pucci's fantasy team with Antonio likely not to play. This is brilliant. I've got probably 2 players that are actually playing because everyone's being rested.
17. You think you're 17 points clear of me, which I've been finishing more than 17 points a week, more than you the last couple of weeks, but I've got to finish more than 17 points than you. I know. I think I've got a 12 or 15 point head start on Dodsey, so fingers crossed half his players don't play. But yeah, so it looks like it's going to be Leeds, Leicester and Southampton, which you predicted. And if that comes in, not only will I do a show, but I'll probably need to buy you a gift because that's just an amazing prediction which was done about 10 weeks ago.
And I will accept it.
Yeah, of course you will. But at the time, I thought I went for Forest and Bournemouth, and like I said, Bournemouth haven't lost a game since I said they'd go down. And Forest have just been amazing the last couple of weeks as well. So
I really like that combo of Billing and Solanke up front, and Gary Taylor? I think seeing the Bournemouth fans on the overlap, which is obviously a good program to watch to get a good sense of how the fans feel. They're all going. we've got big investment, and we've given the keys to the castle to a guy who's a little bit like, the Celtics head coach, rookie, no idea, and mate, what a job he's done. So
he's done amazing.
Unbelievable.
Done amazing.
Unbelievable.
And the thing is, next year, the team's coming up, obviously it's Burnley, and it's either Luton or Coventry in the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
So it's three teams that aren't going to be huge spenders, which means the likes of Fulham and Notts Forest and Bournemouth can consolidate into year two and not be one of the favourites to go down again, because the three that come up will obviously be your favourites to go straight back down.
Yeah, it should be interesting, mate. I mean, you think about a quick one on like someone like Fulham. Fulham have been like Norwich, right? Every year they bounce back in and out of the Premier League and the Championship.
Yeah.
And it looks like they finally might have settled on hopefully getting a few seasons under their belt. But it's the cruel league, mate. Sheffield United, of course.
Sheffield United second. Burnley, Sheffield United. And I hope it's Luton, because that was my grandpa's team. I also think it'll be funny for...
I've had a few parties out in Luton. And
it's no offence to people in Luton, but Luton's a shithole. But the best part about Luton, ground is the away fans have to walk through some guy's back garden to get into the away fan to get in the away stand.
That's so good, mate.
That's just so
Class.
great, and to think of that
so
in the Prem.
Good. Yeah.
But yeah, like I said,
there's a lot of inbreeding up in Luton. Yeah, credit to all the all of that.
I'm not privy to that. But like I said, if they come up, I do hope they come up. Like I said, my grandpa used to work down in Luton, and that was his team, so I'd like them to come up. I don't mind if it's Coventry, as I like both teams, but I know that they'll both be, whichever one it is, will be odds-on favourite to come straight back down. Sheffield United
had a few tough years, haven't they?
Sheffield United are not known for spending a lot of money, so they did stay up a couple of years ago and then went back down second season, but they'll be favourites to come back down again. And then Burnley, it depends, they look like they've got a bit of money now. I know JJ Watt's an owner there, so if they've got some actual investment, if they keep company and they could probably stay up. But
what a season he's had, hey? I mean, to consider they lost a couple of players. When you think about Dwight McNeil and a couple of Tarkowski, to making someone like Ashley Barnes up front look like a half-decent footballer. He deserves a lot of credit, man.
Yeah, I think they were in absolute meltdown. They lost their manager of 10 years. They stupidly sacked him. I think people probably would have kept him up. They then went down. They had a bit of a clear out because a lot of players wanted to leave and move on. And he's came in, he's just created this almost like Man City winning mentality overnight. And they've had an all-time season, and if he keeps that going, and like I said, adds a bit of quality, that they could be a decent Prem team. But the thing that's more than likely is someone like Spurs or I'll come in for company and go, we're going to take him before someone else does.
Well, it's funny you say that, because I was actually going to just touch on the fact that he was linked with him quite early, not early on, after the Nagelsmann first year, his Poch coming back scenario. He was then sort of linked. Yeah. He then said, no, I'm going to stay with Burnley for another season. And then it looked like it was an absolute signed, sealed and delivered that they're going to get this guy called Arne Slot, who's just won the Eredivisie with Feyenoord, who again lost a couple of key players and was given like a £20 million budget, which is nothing, and apparently plays great football. And he's also said he's staying. What do Spurs have to do?
Yeah, honestly, apart from the stadium, Spurs is a basket case.
It's like you've got a Ferrari and no one wants the keys to drive it.
Yeah. But winning the league with Feyenoord, when PSV and Ajax are quite clearly the two biggest teams, that's an amazing achievement. It's like Hearts winning the SPL, or like I said, maybe even like a Leicester or a Newcastle winning the Prem.
I mean, I haven't obviously watched any, but yeah, heard a couple of the Dutch journalists speaking so positively about him. Again, it's the Cruyff sort of mentality, like a sort of Ten Hag and Pep sort of mentality, but basically referring to that he's plays on the front foot, and attacking versus he's very much more in line with a Poch than a Mourinho and Conte that they've just had before. So that'll probably mean another 10 players out, 10 players in. But he's actually apparently he's just come out hours before this podcast to say he's staying at Feyenoord. So
that's great. I'm happy.
Happy
for him. I'm more happy for him. He's not ended up at Spurs. I honestly, I think my hot tip is
you're going to get a call from Daniel Levy very soon. Keep your phone on, mate.
I think Ange Postecoglou will end up at Spurs.
It's probably quite a good shout. It's probably a good shout. I mean, I was thinking Van Nistelrooy's just left.
Leaving Celtic, you wouldn't leave Celtic for a relegation threatened Premiership
well, they've
team.
said Leeds, and Leeds is a big club,
team.
but yeah, you got Spurs.
Leeds is the only one down the bottom end. If they somehow stayed up, Leeds down the bottom end because of the Australian link, the Harry Kewell being his assistant manager, and the fact that they've had so many great losses in the past. That might they might be a bit of a you know what I mean?
Good narrative, right?
There might be a
good
draw
story
there
behind it. Yeah.
But I think the class of Ange and what he's done, I think Spurs would be the right level. I don't think you're not going to go from Rangers or Celtic to a top 4 team, but Spurs probably at the lowest ebb at the moment, 7 for 8. He'll think he can get them into the top 4 and higher. So I think it would be a good match for both, and it gets them the hell out of Celtic and allows Rangers to close the gap.
And that's it, mate. I think we'll see how obviously United turn out tomorrow morning.
Well, let's just do a
couple
of quick predictions. So I'm going to take Luton to win the Championship playoff. Who do you fancy?
I'd assume if they beat.
It's Coventry. It's Coventry.
Luton. Middlesbrough, didn't they? I mean, I thought Middlesbrough were going to get through just given where Carrick took over.
I thought it was going to be Sunderland. I thought it was going to be Sunderland Middlesbrough, to be honest. But it's ended up looking Coventry, which is my dream.
Look, I've had a few cheeky nights out in Luton, so despite my incest slander, I wouldn't mind making them come through. But if you want to do a shoey, I'll take Cov.
Right, you take Cov. I'll take
keep it spicy for the all our fans out there.
You take Coventry, I'll take Luton. And who's going to go down? You're going to stick with your 3, which is the favourite 3 now anyway.
Can only stick with my 3, mate, and wait for my gold Rolex present.
I'm going to double down. I'm going to say Leicester somehow managed to stay up. And I'm going to say Leicester win, right? Yeah. Everton draw. Bournemouth somehow get sneaker draw, and it doesn't matter what Leeds do. But Everton draw and Leicester somehow stay up. So I'm going to go Everton, Leeds, and Southampton to go down.
It's definitely on, mate. I mean, Leicester got a draw against Newcastle, didn't they? And somehow Newcastle didn't win. Yeah, somehow Newcastle didn't win.
23 shots to 1. So that's a super point. If they stay up, they'll say that was the game of the season for them. That point, if they somehow, I mean, they've got, like I said, they've got West Ham at home and they'll be putting out the kids. So I fancy them to win that. And it's just whether Bournemouth, but you just don't know with Bournemouth. They can play amazing football. They were hard for Man U to beat the other day.
I don't think they're going to be proper summertime. I mean, I'd imagine, like anything, there's probably a few guys there knowing that they're going to get a few signings in that are going to have to play for their spots next year.
Of all the teams that are so-called on the beach, Bournemouth are the most unpredictable. So they could get sneaker draw or even beat Everton. You just don't know. But yeah, I'm going to take that just to keep it interesting. And that wraps up the EPL.
Sweet. All right, mate.